The U.S. State Department has just released its annual report on international religious freedom for 2011. It takes a look at how well or how badly countries around the world protect the right to worship freely, and it often sheds a light on the harassment and discrimination that religious minorities around the world face. Now, Israel in general got high marks, though there were a few problem areas. But for Jews living outside of Israel, the picture was much more disconcerting. The report found a global rise in anti-Semitism, especially across Western and Eastern Europe. Growing nationalist movements in Europe that rail against the, quote, other have increasingly made Jews a target in 2011, the U.S. State Department report found. An openly anti-Semitic nationalist political party in Hungary was singled out. It's worth noting the report doesn't cover the last 6 months. Today, there are anti-Semitic parties popping up in France, Greece, and the Netherlands. In Europe, the old traditional forms of baseless hatred towards Jews are coming to the fore again, the report noted. Conspiracy theories, the revival of ancient blood libels, cartoons demonizing Jews, and acts of desecration and assault have all been reported. Ukraine and France were highlighted as particularly problematic countries. The deadly attack on a Jewish school in Toulouse happened in March. The State Department's report only seems to confirm an atmosphere of growing anti-Semitism that led a Muslim extremist to shoot dead 4 Jews at close range. Soccer matches in Europe are also a new venue for expressing hatred towards Jews, with spectators chanting anti-Semitic slogans at games in the Ukraine and Netherlands. Around the world in general, the report found that Holocaust denial, glorification, and relativism continue to grow. Not surprisingly, Iranian-backed websites top the list of culprits. Anti-Israel sentiment that feeds on old Jewish stereotypes also surfaced. The report found that opposition to certain policies of Israel was conflated with blatant anti-Semitism. Egypt was a primary example noted in the report. The revolution has led to a sharp increase in public hostility towards Israel, which often employs anti-Semitic language and symbols. The attacks on Israel's embassy in Cairo took place in 2011. The report noted that the Arab Spring has unleashed hatred not only against Jews, but the Christian minorities as well. How well does Israel protect the rights of its people to worship freely? In general, the report said Israel's laws and policies protect religious freedom, and in practice, the government generally respected religious freedom. The Israeli government neither improved nor slid back from its position on this issue since 2010, the report concluded. But it did warn of trouble spots. It said there were incidents of societal abuses and discrimination based on religious affiliation, belief, or practice. Some, quote, individuals and groups were responsible for discriminatory practices against Israeli Arab Muslims, Christians, and non-Orthodox Jews. The Israeli government's closure policies and security barrier in the West Bank were cited as restricting the ability of Muslims and Christians to reach holy sites, especially in Jerusalem. And like last year's report, the U.S. State Department found it problematic that Orthodox Jews have a monopoly on civil procedures in Israel. The rabbinate controls conversion, marriage, and divorce. The U.S. State Department's annual report on international religious freedom also looked at the Palestinians. They reserved their harshest criticism for the Gaza Strip. The terrorist group Hamas took over the enclave in a bloody coup in 2007, kicking out their rivals, the Palestinian group Fatah. The report found that since then, Hamas has enforced conservative Islamic law, harassed non-Muslims, and imposed religious restrictions on women. Jordana Miller, JN1, Jerusalem.